to talk a lot about the miracle morning, but I think we had that covered yesterday. So I'll talk a little bit about it. But first, I just wanted to kind of share just quickly my story, just so you guys know kind of like the trajectory of everything that's happened to me. So I hit Diamond for the first time last April, and throughout the year, you know, like you hit Diamond and then it's like a struggle to keep it, and then you kind of solidify it, but then like life happens. So like it was just sort of like up and down for me. And then in November last year, I got really sick, and it was like out of the blue, and I thought I had the flu, and it wasn't getting better. And my neck was really like swollen and sore. So long story short, it ended up being a thyroid issue, and I had to have emergency surgery to have it removed. And then 2 weeks after that, I found out that I had stage 3 thyroid cancer, like completely out of the blue. So scared the crap out of me, because I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm healthy now, and I'm doing all this, all this stuff to make myself healthy. So it was a big blow, and it took a few months for me to really bounce back from that, because I had to recover from surgery. And then in February, I had to have this crazy treatment. I don't know if you guys know anything about thyroid cancer, but they don't do chemo or radiation. They do radioactive iodine, which is like a pill that you take, and it makes you radioactive. It was crazy. It was like science fiction craziness, and I had no idea what was going on. But I had to take this pill, and I had to isolate myself for 5 days. So I couldn't be around my family. I couldn't be around my children. They actually had to leave the house for a full 48 hours just so they wouldn't like get radiated on, I guess. So, from like November until really the end of February, I was dealing with that. In October of last year, I had hit Success Club All-Star. And then in November, December, I didn't hit Success Club at all. Like, it just wasn't even on my radar. So in January, I had to really start like bouncing back, because I've always known that this is my career. Like, I'm a lifer with Beachbody. So that wasn't, it was almost like I just took a sabbatical. Like, I just needed to take that time to get better. And in January, I was like, I'm getting my Diamond back, because of course I lost it in this process. And so I set a goal to get it back the end of January, and I got it back February 1st, which was close enough. And it was going well after that. Like, I was building and building, but I just sort of felt like I'm still not getting where I want to be. Like, I'm seeing all of these other coaches, and I'm one of Amy Silverman's personally sponsored coaches. So like, there's a ton of motivation on that team. There's a ton of inspiration, and just her whole story is just like phenomenal. So I'm watching all these other people, and I'm like, I know I can do that. Why am I not doing that? So my husband and I were big Disney people, and we had a trip to Disney in April, and then a second one in May. And during that time, I had a lot of time to think. And when we were away in May, I was like, you know what? I'm just not treating this like it's my job. I'm treating it like I love it, and I do the 4 vitals kind of. Like, I always do them, but it might be like, oh, I forgot to do my personal development, so I better read for 10 minutes. But it wasn't doing anything. So I decided in May that when I came home, I was really going to make this my job. And so that was what I wanted to share with you guys, because I actually just had a call with Amy yesterday, and she was like, what are you doing? Like, all of a sudden, I've recruited 7 people this month, and I'm at SC 16, which is like almost a record for me. So it's a record for recruiting for sure. And the rest of our team is really struggling right now, because it is sort of a slow time. And it really just comes down to, I've been treating this like it's my job. And so I just wanted to share with you guys a few of the things that I've been doing, and how that like mentality has helped me a lot. And I know there are some people who will say like, well, don't have a job mentality, have a CEO mentality. But there are certain things that, if you think about them, like, if I had a boss that was watching me, would they be happy about what I'm doing? And I've been both. Like, I've owned businesses in the past, and I've had employees, and I know sometimes that like I'm doing things that like, if one of my employees had been doing that, I would not have been happy. Like, I would probably be pissed. So that's something that I have to really keep in mind. So the first thing that I did when I got home from that vacation was that I set up shop. This is my office. So I made sure that it was all organized, and I have my vision board up, I have my calendar, I have like little things that are helpful to me up around my office, and my desk is you can see there's a big pile back there, but it's somewhat organized. I understand it, at least. The big thing was really having a discussion with my family, because although, I have always spent a lot of time working. I'm on my phone a lot. I know we've talked about that a few times. But I wanted them to understand that like, this is my job. And so just like if I were driving to an office and working, when I go into my office and close the door, it's my working time. So I need to have that respect, especially with summer, because, you know, my kids are home now. I have a 7-year-old daughter who she may barge in here at any time because she still doesn't always understand those boundaries. We make it work. But, you know, I just had to be very clear with them that this is something for all of us. And even though it's taking my time now, it's going to give us time in the future. And I really do believe that. So I just had to communicate that to them. And then the schedule is really, it's always been tricky for me because I know a lot of people will set like office hours, or at the beginning of the week, they'll schedule out their week. That has never worked for me because every day is different. My husband works for Coca-Cola and he's injured right now. He's home all day, every day. We have lots of doctor's appointments and things like that. I still have follow-up appointments for myself, for my illness. There's just always a lot, you know, and I have kids, so there's always a lot going on. And so he and I sit down every night and I ask him, you know, do you have any doctor's appointments? What do the kids have going on? He and I are runners, so we run every other day religiously. So I schedule my runs and we usually have to do that around the weather because it's been raining a lot lately. But so I sit down every single night and I map out my day. And that's been really helpful to me because if I try to schedule at the beginning of the week and everything falls to crap, it's frustrating to me. And then I tend not to reorganize things to where they should be. And sometimes I do honestly fall off my schedule because things will come up that maybe I didn't know. Like yesterday I had a coach enroll and she had some questions. And so I dropped everything because she's a new coach and I wanted to help her. And it doesn't mean that I dropped everything and didn't do those things. I just had to rearrange and juggle my schedule a little bit, but it's easier to do that for one day than it is for an entire week. So then we get down to like the work, like what exactly is the work that I needed to be doing every day to make this happen? And obviously the first thing is the 4 vitals, right? I mean, that's our job. I mean, it's really our job description. So product of the product has always been a no-brainer for me. I started out, before I became a coach, I started out with a 21-day fix and had like the most incredible results. And I can't imagine not doing this stuff. When I was sick, I had lost 40 pounds. And when I got sick over the winter, I gained 20 of those pounds back. Super frustrating because I was like, this isn't even my fault. Like I can't control it. And then people with thyroid issues tend to have trouble losing weight. So that really, once I felt better, I was like, I'm proving everybody wrong because I've had clients and, you know, friends tell me like, you know, I have thyroid issues. I can't lose weight. So that really pushed me and motivated me. And I've lost 14 of the 20 pounds. It's taken longer, but I've done it. You know, so I mean, being a product of the product and just showing that I can persevere through that stuff has been really inspiring to my potential customers, to my customers, to my coaches, and, you know, really just talking about, you know, how much Shakeology has helped me and how, you know, the workouts are just, they're my lifeline. You know, they're part of, it's like brushing my teeth in the morning. Like that whole product of the product vital has just never been a problem for me because it's so important to my life. But I know a lot of people do struggle with it. And so, you know, just scheduling it into your day, you know, I mean, if you have to schedule your workout, I find it better to do it first thing in the morning because if I don't do it first thing in the morning, like I do my miracle morning first and I'll get into that. But if I do it like later in the day, it either doesn't happen or I'm like irritated that I have to stop working to work out. So I'd rather just do it first. Recognition is another one that I think a lot of us struggle with because sometimes it's like, well, I don't know what to, you know, none of my coaches are doing anything or, you know, I don't have anybody who has a transformation yet, but you can still recognize people for the little things. You can, like I just had a coach last week who posted her first transformation picture and I recognized her for doing that because it's brave to do that. I mean, we all remember posting our first transformation picture. I was terrified. I looked like I was like 9 months pregnant in my before picture and I was so scared to post it. So I remember that feeling. So just like little things like that, or I had another, one of my coaches just committed to a challenge that my coach, Amy, gave to everybody. And so I recognized her for committing. I just congratulated her. She hasn't even done it yet, but just for making that commitment. So you can find little things like that to recognize people for. Personal development, this was a huge one that I really needed to incorporate into my day because like I said before, it was always like an afterthought. I knew that it was important. It's a huge theme on my team because Amy Silverman is so into Tony Robbins. She talks about him constantly and is always talking about how we need to go to his events and just like always like drilling it into our heads. So I knew it was important, but I didn't always do it the way that I needed to make it effective for me. So I would like listen to it in my car, or like I said, I would read like 10 minutes, but it wasn't sinking in. And, I would always even tell my team, like, hey, if you don't have time for personal development, listen to it in your car. I'm not even in my car that much because I work from home. So the only time I'm in my car is if I have to go to a meeting, which is very rare, or if I'm driving my son to work, which is like 15 minutes. So I had to really think about how I could change that and how I could incorporate it into my day so that it wasn't just something I was doing, but so it was actually impacting me and being meaningful to me. The Miracle Morning is something I've practiced sort of on and off for a while. I was so thrilled that it was on the wake up call yesterday because I recommitted to it right at the end of May. So it's been about a month. And I really do believe that it's contributed a lot to my success this month. And everybody does it a little bit differently. If you haven't read the book, read it and tailor it to your own goals, your own needs. I start with a meditation. I have a couple that I like. And sometimes I'll like try a new one. I just go on YouTube sometimes and whatever it is that I need. I have anxiety. So sometimes I'll look for something to help me with anxiety. Sometimes I'll do like a visualization for abundance or wealth or whatever it is, but there's something out there for everything. So just play around and find stuff that you like. And I usually do it for like 10 minutes because I get antsy. I can't always like focus and I start to think about other things. So 10 minutes right now is good for me. I'm working on increasing that, but even 2 minutes is good. It's just something to get you focused. And that's the very first thing that I do. One of the things that was tough for me was after recovering from my illness, I get very tired all the time. So for a while I was telling myself, I can't get up early. I need that rest. But then it was like, do I need that rest or do I need to be successful as a Beachbody coach? I had to make that decision. And I was also, noticing like when we go to Disney, we run races and you have to get up at like 3:30 in the morning to do these races. And I was like, well, I could do that. And then I ran 6 miles. Like, why can I do that? But I can't get up, stumble into my office and meditate and read and stuff. So I had to just sort of get over that mental hump. And so I started getting up. I used to, before I got sick when I did it, I used to get up at 5:30. Now I get up at 6. It's still pretty early, I think, and it works for me. I don't have to get up, that early. So I do that and I come into my office, I do that meditation, and then I have 2 journals. And she talked yesterday a lot about journaling. I do a visualization journal. So I will sit down every day and before I open the journal, I'll think about one of my goals or something that I really want, whether it's in my business or in my personal life or things that I want to buy, vacations I want to go on, whatever that may be. And I will write a page in my journal as if it's actually happening. And I try really hard to tap into those feelings of what it feels like to get those things or to do those things. And so sometimes I'll write about, making a certain amount of money and seeing that number on my paycheck, or maybe it'll be, one of my personally sponsored coaches went diamond, or maybe it's, we're building a house or whatever it is, but I do something different every day and something that's meaningful to me in that moment. So it's usually just something that pops into my head and I'll write it. And then I do my gratitude. I have a gratitude journal. I just sort of free write that and just think about all the things that I'm grateful for. And a lot of times it has to do with my family, my children, my husband. I always focus on finding at least 2 or 3 things that I'm grateful for about my business. This morning it was easy. I signed 2 coaches yesterday. So I was like, I'm grateful for my new coaches. And I usually get like 7 or 8 at least. And just something about starting the day with those gratitudes and knowing that, even if it's going to be a difficult day ahead, or even if yesterday was a difficult day, I have so much to be grateful for. And that just helps to keep you positive and smiling and happy. And it makes it easier to do your posts because it just puts you in that frame of mind. After I do those 3 things, I move on to my personal development. And this was really what I needed to focus on, was actually learning from it. So I actually have a binder and I have tabs for each book that I read and I take notes every day. and I spend at least a half an hour either reading or listening to audio, and I take my notes, and then when I finish the chapter or the 30 minutes or whatever it might be, I will write down 3 takeaways from what I learned that day, and I'll also include an action step. So, and it might not be like an actual, like, I'm going to physically do this, but it might be focus more on love or, you know, something like that, but just something that I can take away from that I can start implementing in my daily work. So, and that's, like I said, I've been doing that for a little over a month, and it's really just set the tone for my day. And then once I'm done with all of that, I go and do my workout. And that is sort of like the end of my morning routine. And then I have my schedule for the day that I get into. I'm doing on time. I tend to like go over on time, so I'm keeping an eye on it. And then, so the 4 vitals are the first part of our job. Posting on Facebook and on Instagram and any other social media that you're on is part of our job. And I think that it's great to like post a pretty picture or to post a picture of your breakfast or a video of your workout. But the thing that a lot of us miss, and I know I have to focus really hard on that too, is providing value within those posts. Because if you're just posting a sweaty selfie every day, people are going to be like, oh my God, if I have to look at her face one more time, it's like, what's the point? You know, so I usually try to include like something motivational, or like today, my husband and I went for a run, and I just like did not want to go for a run today. It's usually, I'm motivated with my morning workouts. It's the runs that I'm always like, oh. But I'll be honest about that, because if people think that I'm always like, I can't wait to work out and this is so awesome, they're going to be like hating me. Because it's very rare that people feel that way. So I try to be relatable. And so being relatable and being real and providing value are really important. But you should be posting at least 2 to 3 times a day on each platform that you're on, and have a strategy with it. Because I know that, like, for example, last week on Friday, I planned on posting results from the Shift Shop test group. And every time that I do that, I get like crazy amounts of people messaging me, like, I need to get in on that. What's going on? So I'm strategic about that. And I make sure that on Saturday, after I posted for Friday, I schedule time to invite and have conversations with all of those people who liked and commented and messaged me about that post. So there has to be some sort of strategy, and sharing other people's transformations is almost even more important than sharing your own, because it shows that this works for lots of different people. It doesn't just work for me. It works for like literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So the more we can show, the better. Challenge groups are your job. That's usually the first thing that I do when I sit down to work, is posting in my challenge groups, checking in with my challengers, making sure that, like, I'll just go through and make sure that like any comments that they've made or any posts that they've made, I've responded to, because you can't just leave them hanging. You know, I mean, it's not just about making that sale and then just being like, okay, you're on your own. You have to really engage with them, because those challengers are also potential coaches. And not only that, but you want them to get those results because you want them to love it the way that you love it. And you want them to just do it forever. You know, you want them to be lifers. It's in everybody's best interest, because not only is it good for them, but it's going to spill over into their own lives and their own families and their own friends. So it's really important to do that. Calls and events. I was awful about getting on calls. In fact, I just started getting on these calls, I think, like a month ago. And like I said, I went Diamond over a year ago. I've always been, it's not that I don't think I need them. It was just more like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I have too many calls. Like I have, my team call, I have Amy's team call, I have these calls, I have a wake up call. Like there's so many. And then Amy has, she's identified me as one of her top coaches. And so she's put me in a special group and we have calls. So it's like craziness. But I also know that my energy and my motivation is like way up when I get on those calls. So yeah, it might be a lot, but if I don't get on them, I don't even get as much work done, because I'm not as motivated. I'm not as structured with the time. And I know, Lacey, you told the story about like when you were in college and not having a job versus having a job. That resonated with me so much, because the busier I am, the more productive I am, because I'm very careful about making sure that any scheduled time I have is used for what it's supposed to be used for. So being on the calls at first was a little bit overwhelming to me, but I'm finding that the more I'm on them, I mean, obviously I'm learning a lot, but it's also helping me to structure my day because I schedule around all of that stuff. And there are jobs. It's just like if I were at work, if I had a job and I had to go to a meeting, I can't skip it, right? So you have to look at it the same way. And obviously events are huge. I was just telling Lacey when the call started that I had to miss Summit last year. And that would have been my first one because I signed up as a coach the year before, right after Summit. And I was heartbroken that I had to miss it. I mean, it's so ridiculous, but I was live streaming it on my like huge screen TV. And I was sitting there just like sobbing, like the tears were streaming down my face when the whole thing first started, like Autumn came out and everyone was dancing to Country Heat. And I was like, I'm supposed to be there. It was so hard not to be there. And so I'm so excited I can't even tell you guys how excited I am about this summit. But it's a way for us all to connect and to, I've never met Amy. She's been my sponsor coach for almost 2 years and I cannot wait to give her a hug. And my success partner who's quitting, I've never met her and I'm very upset because now I won't ever get to meet her probably. But, my team, and there are just so many people I've never met before. And so we get to connect and learn from one another. It's just so awesome. So how much time do I have, Lacey? Am I good? Okay, I just have a couple more things. So this next one I think is really important, and I see a lot of people not doing this, and it's just be professional. I always tell this story because it drove me crazy. My husband and I were in Disney last year, and we were cutting through. There's like a section that goes from one part of the park to another, and there's a little smoking section in there. And so we always kind of like run through there, and I always tell my kids, like, hold your breath, and we just run through. And there was a woman there with a Beachbody Coach jacket on, puffing away. And I was like, and it made me so upset because she's representing our company. And it just really bothered me. And it just has always stuck with me because I was like, wait, so everyone's going to like see her and she's walking around with this Beachbody Coach jacket on and she's smoking. And that like totally goes against our ideals of health and wellness. And so, and that's sort of an extreme case, but like, just think about how you're carrying yourself in your day-to-day life and what you're putting out there. If you're putting out negativity, if you're gossiping, I mean, we've had some drama on my team lately, and I know there's been drama sort of like company-wide with people leaving for other things and other opportunities and things like that. And that's, it is what it is, but then it's like everyone's talking about it and everybody's, it's not professional. And I know that I come from a corporate background also, and I worked in a publishing company. And I know that if there were like a bunch of people chit-chatting about like, oh, so-and-so is quitting and da-da-da-da-da, the management wouldn't like that. So we shouldn't like that. We're our own managers. So I think we have to, manage that. And honestly, like I said, my success partner is just, I'm 99% certain she's leaving the business. She's decided to be a discount coach, but I could tell months ago when she started getting involved in some of that negative chatter. And I've been trying to kind of like pull her back, but it's not my job to pull her back. And that's the thing, is we can only manage ourselves. So we have to regulate how we're behaving and how we're putting things out there. And just like, you always just want to come from a place of helping people. So if somebody tells you no, like we all know this, but no's sometimes become yeses. But if you get defensive, that no is always going to be a no. Like there's no way that somebody's going to want to work with you. And I have an example of that too. because I'm very active in my local business community, and I actually run a women's group here. And a woman reached out to me, and this was right after we had rolled out the whole, like you can't work with other companies rule. I can't remember what it's called, but, and this woman reached out to me and wanted to know if I would share her opportunity. She was from another network marketing company. If I would share her opportunity with 50 of my friends. And I was like, and I don't even know this woman. So I was like, no. But I also explained to her, that I'm really not allowed to do anything like that because, and this woman like ripped me a new one. She was like, well, I would do it for you. And, I do so much to help women business owners, and I guess you just don't care about, like, it was just like this whole thing. I blocked her. I mean, I wasn't even going to get into it, but you can bet that I will never do business with that woman ever. And I'm always happy to help other people, but you just can't behave that way. And I can remember when I first started as a coach, I had, a few people who were, sort of nasty to me when I would send them invites and stuff. And I would like get defensive right away. It's just not worth it. Just always be professional and always come from a place of love. Whenever I have somebody who is defensive with me or nasty with me, it doesn't happen that often anymore, but and I think part of it is because my own skills have improved. But when it does, I always just bless and release. I always just wish them well and just move on. You know, I mean, I talk to so many people a day that one person is not going to ruin whether or not I'm successful. So I just, try to give them whatever love I can and just move on. And then the last thing I just wanted to say is always go back to your why. It's so important, especially on our tough days, and we all have them. I mean, like I said, I had a great day yesterday. Today could be like the worst day ever. I mean, I never know. And I think like a month ago, I finished a book, and the name is like escaping me right now. I have it written down in my little binder that I told you guys about. Get Over Your Damn Self. I don't know if any of you have read it, but it's written by a woman who is very successful in another network marketing company. I don't know which one, but it doesn't matter. And she talked about making your why personal. So we all have whys that are like, oh, I want to put my kids through college, or, oh, I want to retire my husband. And that's all, I mean, those are all very admirable, and those are things that I want to do, but it didn't, they say your why should make you cry. It didn't really, I mean, it was meaningful to me, but I had to really sit down, and there was an exercise in that book that helped me with that, to write out something that was really meaningful to me. And really what it comes down to for me is empowerment, because for a very long time, especially financially, I felt like I was powerless. And I feel like this business is giving me my power back. It's not just financial. I'm growing into a better wife, a better mother, a better leader. And I'm feeling stronger and stronger every day in every sense of the word. It's not just about my workouts. It's about like how I feel here. So that, and even now, like, it gets me choked up. So obviously like that's really meaningful. And so on the days that suck, I have it written down. I have it written down on a piece of paper, and I pull this out and I read it every time I need to. And I also usually read it. I don't always remember, but I usually read it before I start my work day as well. But definitely when things get tough, because that's, we have tough days. This is never always easy. Sometimes it is, and that's awesome, but most of the time it's not. And so we just always have to remember why we're doing this. That's all I got.
Danny, that was awesome. I was shaking my head the entire time, nodding, giving you a thumbs up, and I'm just like, oh yeah. I love like the part where you said, bless and release. Guys, so many coaches get stuck into that like negativity and that like gossipy and that, and I'm like, don't let that have space in your head. Like, kick it out. I'm like, you only have so much rent for space, and I'm like, kick that out. I'm like, that does not help your business one little bit. So bless and release. I loved how you said you set up shop. And like you have like, when you go here, like there's just that little difference thing is awesome. It seriously is so awesome. I love how you had a discussion with your family. Like, that's perfect, because it's just like, okay, guys, like when I'm in here, like I'm working, just different little things like that, little tweaks like that here and there. Loved it. Danny, that was awesome. So many great tips, so many great ideas. And I think it's so awesome that you're having like your all-time best month this month. And some people are like, it's the worst. Everyone, I'm like, you guys, I'm like, no, I'm like, there are some people having their record month this month. And so the miracle morning, huge. I think like what you said, you're like, I think that has a lot to do with the success that I've had. You've made up in your mind that I'm going after it. I'm going to get it. I love, and you guys, I love the saying that says, if not you, who? And if not now, when? Like, you're like, I was looking at Amy Silverman and her story, and like all these people, like, there's nothing different about them. Like, I'm that person too. It's like, if not you, who? Because it's going to be somebody else. And if not now, when? There's never going to be a perfect time. It's just like, there's no ever a perfect time to start a diet. I'm like, it's a lifestyle. I'm like, there's always going to be parties. There's always going to be barbecues, and there's going to be like treats and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, there's never a perfect time. I'm like, just start. So you guys, any questions, any comments, like, let's open it up. We've got about 5 minutes. So that was awesome.
I thought it was so great. You like hit the nail on the head with so many things, and especially, just like trying to, like, you're real about the fact, like, what you were doing wasn't working, or you realize like, okay, I could be doing this and it's not working. So you're being like so flexible about it. And I think that's huge, because that's what I've realized, because it can either suck the fun out or it can make it worth it. So you're like, you figured out that this is what I need to do to make it a job. Like you were saying, like it's a job, it's work, but it's going to work for your lifestyle. Like the whole point of why you're doing this, right?
Yeah,
So,
I think like that flexibility is so important too. And I think, it's just like with anything else, like if you can't identify that there's a problem, then you're just going to keep doing the same. It's like that definition of insanity. You're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And it was frustrating to me that I was doing okay. And I was doing better than a lot of other coaches on my team, but I knew that I could get where I wanted to. And I without a doubt in my mind now, I know it's going to happen, but it is that flexibility. And I think for all of us, and even now, with me doing what I'm doing and feeling like I'm finally on that path, I think all of us still need to stop and reevaluate things once in a while and look at like what's working and what's not. So like we're coming up on month's end, and one of the things that I'm really incorporating now is doing monthly goals, but also looking backwards and figuring out what worked and what didn't so that I can keep tweaking it. And you do need to be flexible because, if you're very rigid in what you're doing and being stubborn, like I've been for so long, it doesn't do you any favors.
and I think obviously what you're sharing, like you maybe even without realizing it, or maybe now that you've reflected, like going through what you did with your illness, like my upline, who's one of my best friends, she went through the exact same thing in this past year with her, the thyroid and the treatment. And it's actually taking just until now. So like she had her surgery back in November, and like her business was, seriously affected. And she's like, oh my gosh, how is this happening? I can't work out. I can't do this. But it's crazy. Like you're now on fire, and she's starting to pick it up too, because people are watching you and hearing your story. So whatever you're sharing must be so impactful to connect with a whole new group of people.
It really does help a lot. And if any of you guys have, not that I would like wish thyroid cancer on anybody, but if any of you have obstacles like that or health concerns, share about it, because we know everybody wants to make excuses about stuff. And I've posted about it before, and I know I've actually offended a few people who have thyroid issues, because I did post one time and I was like, really? You can't lose weight when you have thyroid issues? Watch me. And that was before I even started losing weight, but I was so determined to do it. And I think it has inspired a lot of people who are looking at me and saying, oh my gosh, like, look, I was posting pictures of myself from my hospital bed with like the oxygen thing, and I had a huge bandage on my neck, and it was ugly, but I wanted people to see everything that I was going through. And so they were able to see that I went from that to where I am now, and I'm working out twice a day, and I killed Sean Week, and I'm going to kill Shift Shop. I'm really full of energy now, and it has to do with not just my lifestyle, but my mindset. And so it really does inspire people. So if any of you guys have, even if you have like a bad knee or whatever it is, talk about that, because other people can relate to it, because we all have something.
Okay, guys, we're going to end on that note. That was amazing. Okay, guys, when those trials come through your life, when life throws you this curveball, like I can't even imagine thyroid cancer. Like I had a little nephew who had cancer, and holy smokes, like it gives me chills to think about it. But you're exactly right. Like run to coaching, share about it. Like it will help you. It'll help those people who are out there who are like, you guys are paving the path. Like you're going off on this rocky road, and it's just like, oh my heavens. But people don't know how to get through things unless like they hear your stories. I heard the greatest thing ever was at this women's conference. And there was this lady who got up and she told her story about how her husband had an affair and how she got through it. The second lady got up and she talked about how she lost a child to a horrible illness. The third lady got up and talked about how she had been sexually abused by her father. The guy that got up to close it out, he says, you guys, we all have stories. He says, we all have stories that need to be shared. He's like, how was the lady here today sitting in the back row who just found out her husband had an affair? How is she going to get through it if the lady in the front row doesn't stand up and say how she got through it and give her hope? How's the lady here today, who was going to lose a child that he had a matter of, like weeks or months? How is she going to get through it if the lady in the front row doesn't stand up and say how, And I thought it was just so awesome, because you guys, it was you guys who helped me. Like it was you guys who brought me back, because all your stories are so inspiring. And I'm like, they're happy. They like found love for life again. And I just took me like forever just like watching you guys and being like, I want to be like that. So you guys share your stories, run to coaching. Don't run away from it, because so many people just run away from it. Okay, everyone, thanks so much. No more calls, you guys. I'm watching the group. I'm going to be redoing the groups and that. So next week is 4th of July. And then the next week I will be at Summit. We're going to be setting up everything up. So I will meet you guys in person. I'm meeting you all right, in person. Okay, guys, have an awesome, awesome day. Bye.